Northeast Washington is cooking, all right? It is triple digits. We got a heat wave going on. Way too hot for me to be out in the workshop doing stuff. It's like an easy bake oven out there. I just feel like I'm being cooked. I'm like a low quality cookie being cooked by a child out there in that tin can. So we're up here. We got some air conditioning going. We are going to be doing a bunch of stuff. We are going to be looking through the microscope at some zeolites, some clinoptilolite that I collected out on the Oregon coast. We're going to be cleaning it up in this. This is an ultrasonic cleaner. There we go. How about that? This is from Cutting Edge Supply. Those guys over there, they sent it. It's the Gemoro. It's the little one. We put this into the test some. I've been testing it up against the more budget-friendly one that I just picked up on Amazon for like $50 or whatever. So it's cool to be able to put this to the test some. So we'll be cleaning that. And if these are good once they're fully cleaned up, we will be doing some mounting. So come along. We're going to hang out in the office today. So I almost said shop. We're going to hang out in the office. It should be pretty good. So this was 2 rocks that I picked up at Oceanside on the Oregon coast. And you can see we have all kinds of little lined vugs. I think some people will believe that these are chalcedony. They're typically not, at least not in the ones that I found out there. But I can see why you might make that have that confusion when you see stuff like this. Usually, zeolites are not the go-to in people's minds. So I have a ton of material here, way more than what I actually need for my purposes. I've already kind of isolated some pieces that we're going to look at under the microscope. And then I have one on matrix still that I kind of cleaned up, but it needs more. It needs more. So we're going to look at these under the microscope in their kind of raw and dirty fashion. And for the time being, we're just going to put this stuff aside. And man, if you actually think about each vesicle that you can just see on the outside of this, plus what could be potentially on the inside, there's a lot. There's a lot here. This will probably just get stored for a later date. The first piece that we're going to look at here is going to be the piece with the matrix, the basalt. And you can kind of see here under the microscope, which we're just doing this kind of live here. I'm not like, you can see that we're moving this around. So the quality is not super good. And the depth of field, you can also see is a little, how little of a depth of field. This is why the focus stacking is important. But it kind of gives us an idea as to what we're looking at here. We can go in more, and you can see we have some of this brown back here on this kind of back little ball nodule. It's not a nodule. This little ball of clinoptilolite. We want to try to get all this stuff off, and even on the front piece, we can see that we have some dirtiness going on in here, and maybe we can get some of this stuff out. It doesn't look too bad right now, but definitely under the microscope for photo stacking, the image stacking, we'll see a lot more of this junk, and we'll want to get rid of that. So looking at all these loose pieces, some of which are pretty good, I think, especially this bigger piece here, I really want to get that cleaned up. I think that would look fabulous mounted up. If we can get all of this crud, all this dirt and stuff off here, that would look epic, I think, as a mount. And one of those balls there is upside down, actually, but you can kind of see here. I'm just have this in a little lid of a P1 box. But yeah, I mean, all of these would look really good cleaned up. That's actually, this one right here in the middle is actually upside down. We can grab some tweezers here, and maybe we can flip that. Get this out of the way here. There we go. We can see that one. I'm not sure if that one's worth it. The other ones are definitely, especially this big guy. So yeah, these two right here, these bigger ones, I think would look rad. They would look rad, totally cleaned up. Okay, so now you kind of have an idea of what we're working with. Now you kind of have an idea of what I'm working with here. So next step is just to clean them up, right? We're gonna take this thing, we're gonna go put some water in it, and we're gonna run it. So with these ultrasonic cleaners, there is so much bad information out there. Like I think part of it is a lot of the ways in which people have used ultrasonic cleaners over the years or whatever. It's like cleaning stuff that's not this, right? In my experience with the cleaning of rocks and minerals, if it's not clean in the ultrasonic cleaner in like a couple of minutes, it's not coming off, you know? I have never, up to this point, came across something where I'm like, 2 minutes and it's still there, but then 20 minutes it's gone. No, it's the cavitation, which this thing basically creates little... how to explain cavitation? The basics of cavitation is that it basically makes little bubbles that pop, and it's going to break stuff off. It's going to remove dirt and grime. That's the Cliff Notes version of it, I guess. So let's fill this thing up. So I have these in the basket. So this little basket comes with it, and that one's in the lid of that P1 box, and that one's just in a cap to a bottle. And you don't ever want to put stuff just in contact with the basin. It's got to be elevated somewhat. In my experience, I have not noticed any change in how much like ultrasonic waves penetrate stuff by having it in a tray, or even like a little basket within this. I think putting stuff directly in contact with the wire basket may not be the best depending on what you're doing. So, you know, this pretty simple functions, right? We have heat. I'm not going to run that. I'm running just pure water, and we'll just put it on for like 5 minutes or so. And you can already see some of the stuff kind of coming off here. Quite cool. Might be a little hard to tell, but the water definitely yellowed. Actually, they're kind of starting to float away in this. Maybe it's the plastic, so I just put them all in there. And all we got to do now is we're going to take them out and we're going to dry them off, and then we can look at them under the microscope. Here is the one that is in the basalt, and it is cleaner. Some of the stuff that we may not be able to clean off. And, you know, there's this kind of misconception that you're always going to be able to clean something with mechanical cleaning or acid. Sometimes stuff is just attached, and it's attached in a way where the specimen is just going to have that. And we can kind of see some of this brown here. Is it possible that I might be able to go in there with like a hypodermic needle and scrape at it? Possibly, but I might also damage the specimen. So you definitely got to weigh those things out, you know. But overall, I'm happy with this. I think this is probably mountable in my opinion. Now we have more pieces here in the tray. Look at that. Look at how clean these little guys are. You can really start to see the detail in some of these. Now, of course, when I go to take photos, it will look significantly nicer than what you're seeing right here as I stream this. Man, those were just caked with grime. Some of this yellow, I might be able to get it out, but like, I'm quite happy with this. Let's, this one right here, let's see if we can zoom in on that. We can really start to see some crystal structure. Look at that. That looks great. That piece looks great. Okay. I'm going to have to sort these and pick what I want to mount. And then I think we should do a little bit of mounting. These are the 4 specimens that I'm going to be mounting up. They will be going into this, which is a P1 box, and I'm going to be using a paper liner. So this is a little tiny piece of paper, right, folded into a cross, and the specimen is going to be on a pedestal mounted right in the center, and this makes for a nice dark space to view under the microscope, and they will be labeled. These P1 boxes are 7/8 by 7/8 by 3/4, I believe. Yeah, that. So that's how I prefer to do it. Everybody has their own means, their own ways they like to mount specimens. There's no right way or wrong way. It may not seem like that based upon the very, very strong opinions of people on the internet, but the goal here is to have a way of cataloging and being able to take high quality photos of these little tiny and perfect crystals. So the pedestals for these two bigger ones are going to be, I have this is a cork stopper. I believe this is a 00040, whatever. And you can see here, a lot of them have already been dyed. So these are dyed with Indian ink. Okay. So that's what we're going to be doing over here. These little ones, see, I don't want to be able to see this. I can take a cork pedestal, right? And cut it down and trim it and shape it. And when you're looking at the specimen from the top, looking down, you won't be able to see that. Okay, both because of the very narrow field of view, but also I want it so that you just don't see it. This has to be smaller than the specimen. So for these little guys, we're going to be using a toothpick and painting these as well. Now, really, everybody has their own ways that they like to do things. For me, I only mount specimens that I've collected for the most part. I mean, I do have some that have been gifted, but it's quite common in the hobby to go out and buy a lot of mounts. So if you're buying a lot of mounts, you certainly need to, be more efficient in how you manage this stuff. So stabbing your, in my case, toothpicks onto this piece of foam and then painting them all individually might seem really tedious for some people. I prefer it. You could also put these all like in a Ziploc bag and smush them around and do that. But that can also be a little messy, but then we just, I don't need money, right? Like I'm not mounting at like a, 50 things a day. Like, I do like a couple that I really like, and I prefer having a self-collected collection, So I got to paint these, and then we'll let them dry. The nice thing with the corks is that I can carve them down. And similarly with the blackened toothpicks, I can get it just right by cutting and trimming and shaping. The reason I color these with ink and not paint is when you glue something to paint, you're just gluing to the paint. You're not gluing to the actual thing. So there's always a problem that the paint could come off. Whereas this, you're gluing to the actual wood fibers, cork fibers, because it's going to be glued to that and then glued to the paper, and that's going to go in there. I do have a P1 box that has a cut opening and the lid is glued on, and this is so I can check the height. I want to get the specimen to pretty much like the same height in all of my boxes for viewing under the microscope, so I don't have to move the microscope up and down very much. This piece here, okay, in the perfect world, I would have a trimmer and I'd be able to trim that nub off, but I kind of want it to be positioned like that, so we're going to be doing some carving and trimming down of our cork. And similarly with this one, this piece just fits right up on there, so we just have to cut the bottom off and do it in a manner that it will be flat and level. The glue that I use for these, because it doesn't need to be 100% permanent for the rest of my life, I'm just using a white glue because this can be dissolved in acetone, so I can always remove these if I want to ever change things, but I'm still kind of in the phase of just experimenting with different styles of mount. Some people will paint the inside of these, do external labeling. There's a lot of different techniques that you can use. Like I said, I'm still somewhat new to this, so I'm just kind of seeing what I like, So you can kind of see here, I just have that set in there. Nothing's glued yet. It's just checking the clearance under the lid, and that's good. And now I just got to do it to the other three there. One of the more tedious parts is putting the mineral on the pedestal. I use my white glue, and I get the teeniest tiny drop of it on the tip of a toothpick. And I do this under the microscope because it's very, very tedious. And then I just let it sit, don't touch it for like 30 minutes, and it's dry enough to then do it again over in the paper, and similar with these guys. So I'm all glued up here. Everything is good. So we'll just kind of put these together, and I'll kind of show you how I'm doing my my labels. It's pretty simple. I have the name of the specimen. On the back, I have what number it is in my collection. And then I put the GPS of where it was collected. And this, if it's in the way of taking a photo, you know, you can just pull it out and take a photo of the mineral. So let's get these assembled and then take some nice photos with the microscope. I think the photos of these came out really well. I'm happy with them. You know, I don't have the most professional setup for taking these photos, but you really don't. I mean, in the ideal world, I would have thousands and thousands of dollars just to be able to throw at the setup and take, like, you know, the most high-end photos possible, but I don't. Maybe someday. Maybe someday. Until then, I'm pretty happy with the results that I can produce with the equipment that I have. This thing from Cutting Edge Supply worked out great. It worked better than my my cheaper one. I mean, when there's let's see, $60 for my cheaper one, I believe this is $170. I would hope that it would work, would work a lot better. And it does work a lot better. Maybe at some point we'll do some testing between them, like side by side, like more scientific, more accurate testing. I think that would be good. Until then, thank you so much for watching to the very, very end. Give me a thumbs up, throw me a subscribe. I do have more information on my website, currently rockhounding.com. I have an article up about the microscope and taking some photos and stuff, as well on the library section of the website. If you're interested in more micromounting info, I have some links up there to some books on the subject. You can go check that out as well. All right, everybody. Thank you so much, and I will catch you in the next video.